it's a complex problem because, ultimately you have this operating system, that alcohol's fun and reward system that's actively dysregulating all these key systems of health. There's tolerance, there's age, there's responsibilities, and there's your identity. And you pull that out, stop drinking, like you're not even halfway there when it comes to solutions.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Relentless Project. I'm Ish, your host, and I'm here with Clifford Stephan, founder and chief vacation officer of Booze Vacations. Before we get into all of that, what is Booze Vacations? Because when I first saw it, I was thinking almost the opposite of what you do. We're going to go on vacation and we're going to get boozed up, right? But that's not what it is. What is your organization and what do you do?
Sure. Yeah. So Booze Vacation is a men's health and wellness club, essentially, and kind of targeting my peers, kind of 30 to 50-year-old males that, high performing, regularly drinking alcohol, but not alcoholics. And, with age, wear and tear, focusing on your business and your family and goofing off and regularly consuming alcohol, it precipitates very predictive outcomes when it comes to your health and performance and longevity and just enjoyment of life and length of life. So we're kind of a movement and a media company around kind of talking about the benefits of taking these extended breaks from alcohol. So as a bit of a reset, I think a lot of guys, myself included, address our drinking with cutting back and maybe dry January or sober October, but you need a much more extensive break to really kind of reset those programs, starting with your brain and body. And if you don't, it has really negative predictive outcomes that no self-respecting dude would want anything to do with. But it is a complex subject, obviously, and very ingrained in our identity and how we roll. And so, we're kind of being the counterculture brand and awareness to kind of speak to some of the massive benefits you get from taking an extended booze vacation, is what we call it, which is a 3 to 12 month break from alcohol. And it's not about just not drinking, but it's really about leveraging that time, money, and energy to restore and re-regulate all these systems that alcohol is regularly dysregulating, on top of all the other wear and tear that we tend to pick up as we get into our 40s and beyond.
So you say extended, what I'm assuming you guys have looked into this. Is there a magic number of when you start to see the returns or the benefits of not consuming alcohol, or have you guys just picked 3 to 12 as arbitrary numbers? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so to answer it, I kind of backed into the discovery. I knew that cutting back in 1 month breaks didn't work. So I knew longer breaks were important. So we kind of went for the 3 to 12 month range. And then the science came out a couple of years ago. Andrew Huberman had a really popular podcast on alcohol and basically said it's about 2 to 6 months, sometimes even 7 months, just to get your brain rewired back to factory settings. So what happens, even with very small amounts of alcohol, 3 servings of alcohol a week, what's going to happen is you're going to start to shrink your prefrontal cortex, where all your decision making is occurring. And you're really changing your baseline states. So your baseline states change to higher stress, higher anxiety, and lower mood. And then the real kicker is lack of impulse control and discipline. So you're really kind of essentially setting yourself up for consistent negative states. And then you're not very disciplined when it comes to, possible solutions around vices, junk food, scrolling, all that other stuff. And so that's kind of why the rabbit hole goes pretty deep pretty quickly. But obviously it's going to be dose dependent and case dependent, right? Like some guys are healthier than others. Some guys, berserk out more on the weekends than others, and it started precipitated issues. So it's really about meeting guys where they're at. But generally speaking, when we're talking the dudes I roll with, and I've been a social guy, I'm 52 now, but I think the typical guy that's in corporate or in sales or whatever, they're drinking a little at work, they're drinking on the weekends, and it's easily 10, 15 drinks. And, a lot of those drinks will have multiple servings of alcohol in them. So the average dude is going to take easily 4 to 6 months off alcohol just to get their brain rewired and their neural circuitry rewired, let alone, learning how to be social and active and really playing offense when it comes to hopefully making some inroads with their health when they have this golden opportunity. Because, to kind of cut to the chase, with age and wear and tear and regular alcohol use, you are not going to restore your health. I don't care what type of healthy habits you're employing, kale salads and gym memberships and supplements. You're just pissing up wind because you're just dysregulating too many key systems of health, and really eroding your diet and lifestyle and your sleep and your hormones. And so when you get to that point in your 40s, you're really at kind of an inflection point. So you can kind of take the break and restore your health, or you can try and work twice as hard and get results that will disappoint, is ultimately what you're faced with.
So how does all of this even come about, right? It's a very interesting thing that you're doing, and I think it's cool, especially for people who want something more for themselves and they kind of don't know where to start. I think this is a cool place for young men to kind of jump into a community of like-minded individuals. How did this come about? How did you start? Why Booze Vacation?
Yeah, how does anything start, right? It's scratching my own itch. So I was a really sporty dude. Played water polo, soccer, tennis in high school. I surfed and yoga and hiked, and I had a degree in nutritional science, and really kind of had the time, money, and energy to kind of put into my healthy habits. And honestly, my plan was the opposite of getting smarter with my alcohol use. I was going to drink till I was 100 and just have a kick-ass life. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way that that's not possible in spite of decades of effort against it. And so I reluctantly wound up taking a year break from alcohol. I read this book. I listened to this book on Audible, Alcohol Lied to Me. It's a 4-hour Audible book, and it was really entertaining, really eye-opening. And I listened to it. I was like, oh crap, I got to take a real break, because again, we'd taken a month off here and there, but so I decided to take a year off, and it was really transformative. And kind of definitely felt like I found the key to happiness and the fountain of youth. And I was super pumped on it and getting massive gains, and really everything was, kind of firing on all cylinders. And I was having this conversation with my buddies, and I wasn't telling them to take, a year off or anything like that. I was like, hey, check out this book. They all had Audible accounts, and they all, kind of listened to books. And I'm like, we drank a lot. You really need to check out this book. And I, buddies that had known, loved, trusted me for decades, I couldn't have that conversation. They're just like, nah, that's cool, man. I'm good.
I was going to say, what challenges did you face early on with this? Because alcohol is something, it's essentially a poison we put into our bodies for fun, right? You have a group of people who will have a glass of wine once a week or once a month. You have a group of people who need to drink every single day. There's such a big variety of people who encompass this industry. So what challenge did you face in the beginning telling people, oh, if you don't drink as much, you'll be healthier? Because now it's kind of like, you're attacking me? You think I'm an alcoholic? It's like, whoa, easy. It's not what I'm saying, because one thing you said in the beginning was, this isn't about alcoholism or anything. It's about your health, bettering your health. This is one way to better your health. So what challenges did you face in the beginning?
Yeah, a bunch. But again, as I was saying, I was just not even telling them to change their habits, but just kind of open their eyes to a little more awareness with this book, and couldn't even have that conversation. So that was very telling that there's no appetite for this within my community, and B, I knew exactly where this is headed when it came to their health and their performance and their outcomes. And it wasn't going to be anywhere good. It was definitely not what the beer commercial promised. It's probably going to be more Depends undergarments and Viagra commercials and all this other bullshit with a lot of side effects. And so it was, basically I came to the realization that somebody had to be the asshole. It's like we can kind of blue sky this, all we want, but the reality is that we have to, if you want to live a kick-ass life, if you want to, you have to have your health, you have to have your performance, and so sorry, my dog's freaking out. So,
Right.
so basically, I kind of took it on as my own because really out of love for my brothers, and knowing where this was headed. And, honestly, the reality is like people get busy and, you kind of take your health for granted. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where everything's fine until all of a sudden it's not. And then you really can't put that genie back in the bottle. So, I had plenty, grew up with the boys. We talked a lot of shit. I had plenty of asshole experience. So I was happy to be that asshole for the greater good of the community because I really felt so passionate about it, especially with the results I got. I did get some buddies to do it. No surprise, they got the exact same results. So it was really, it was really such an important gift to give that, yeah, I had to get over that. But to your point, it's a very difficult thing for exactly those reasons, right? Because it's such a nuanced thing. So some people, again, typical dude, like I don't know a typical guy that's having one glass of wine every other week, right? They're,
Yeah.
they're drinking more regularly. But there's definitely guys that are, like you said, are hitting it harder and more alcohol use disorder, alcoholism, not my forte. I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to help them get smarter with their drinking. It's a very complex problem, but there is that really big gray area, which I think us dudes generally, guys in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, make up. And that's the meat of the problem. And I was able to come up with a solution that, again, ultimately kind of backs into the beer commercial. So it's like, if you're looking, feeling, screwing better, have plenty of money in your pocket, you're not stressed, you have money to have, some cool adventures in faraway islands, you have good relationships, then you're probably going to figure out how to have fun, even if you're not drinking alcohol. And since we're not alcoholics, it's not like there's not other options out there. There's weed, there's nicotine, there's CBD, there's kava, there's a million different things. So you can kind of dink and dunk. But what I've discovered and what the science is showing is that alcohol is the master key, and if you don't figure that one out, and if you don't reset that one, it's a predictive model, and it's set to self-destruct, and it's embedded in our operating system and in our identity and in our social circles and in our corporate America. So it's not a matter of if, but when.
You mentioned there are other alternatives. Is that something you talk about in your? I don't know if you have. Is it a program that you guys do? Is this just a community? I'm trying to understand a little bit more of what Booze Vacations is. So, do you offer them like plans on how to, like, let's say someone needs advice on, every time I go out socially, I get pressured to drink, and uh, what do I say? Like, are those resources you offer, or
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, and what the hell is Booze Vacation? That's also another good question. From a cruise ship where you're drinking heavily to, what the hell is this thing? But it's essentially a media company. So yeah, we have a lot of content and
okay,
resources around, I hate to say this word, education and awareness, but ultimately we want to kind of illuminate the lines in the matrix for guys and say, hey, what do you want? And how long would you like to keep it? Okay, well, that's going to require you to be performing well. That's going to be, to have like a long shelf life, to not be stressed, to be in these, like, to get in the zone, to have a brain that's functioning and not shrunk and frazzled. And to get there, yeah, you're going to have to like figure out this alcohol thing. And so that's kind of a lot of the awareness that we come up with. But it's a so we figured out the problem, and it's a complex one, and our solution isn't about just not drinking. It's really about re-regulating all these key systems of health, and really kind of trading one thing for 100. So we want you, looking, feeling, screwing better, more muscle, ideal body weight, great blood work, blood pressure, performance, activity levels, the whole ball of wax. So when you get to the other end of your vacation after 6 months or 9 months, however long you go, you stack such high gains that you don't want to go back to drinking how you were. Some people will continue to rock their vacation, maybe 20-25% of them, and then the others will just drink less and for different reasons. But and to your point, so yeah, we have a free, you can take a vacation for free. Obviously, anybody can take a break. We do have guided resources and checklists, again, around healthy habits that, again, when you're regularly drinking, you're just making a ton of stupid decisions about processed food and your schedule and other vices, and you're just in lowered states. So you're kind of just trying to seek comfort, and a good way to kill yourself is through comfort slowly, because it's just like all this like nonsense processed foods and all this other stuff. And we're also, but a big part of it is, yeah, we have one-on-one coaching. And so as we kind of get more at bats with the one-on-one coaching, again, the vision is to give this gift out as quickly as possible to as many guys as possible. But the reality is, when you give it away for free, it's not valued, and it is lifestyle. It is complex. Your buddies are going to give you shit. Your workers are going to look at you sideways. And so you have to have your game plan. You have to play offense. And we have a lot of those resources there, but it is going to take a lot of time and intention to bolt that down. So yeah, we work with kind of high performing dudes that have more money than time, and we get fantastic results. They're losing 40, 60 pounds. They're off their meds. Their businesses are off the chain. Like, everything is easier and better. And yeah, they still have flexibility to have a drink here or there if they feel like it. But yeah, it's a major transformation. But yeah, the goal is to just give it away for free. But it's been kind of an iterative process. And I know you always track about resiliency and trying to, overcoming obstacles. But yeah, this is a big one. It's a big one because it's such a no-brainer, like, guaranteed results, transformative gift that is tricky to sell, and or even if you're giving it away for free.
Yeah, there's two things there that's so funny to me, right? You say your closest circle are the ones giving you like the hardest time, right? And why is that a thing? We launch a business, we launch a podcast, we launch whatever we're doing, right? We're pushing for something greater. And those closest to us, so you would feel, will be like, oh, that's dope. Let's support it. Those are the ones who will be like, for example, I had a t-shirt company many years ago, and I had a good group of friends, right? Like, they're good people, and I'm like, oh man, like, I'll start selling to my friends and family. That's exactly what you're supposed to do, right? Those are the ones who give you the hardest time. Oh, let me get a discount because I know. It's like, bro, I just started this thing. You asking for a discount? You will pay $200 to a stranger for a pair of shoes. You won't pay $25 to your friend who's trying to do something, right? So like, you're trying to do something, and like, that's something I would like. You ever did the, what is it, 22 hard or?
Yeah, there's 30 and 75 hard and all that.
Yeah, 75 hard. Sorry,
I haven't done that, but yeah.
So one thing it calls for is no alcohol,
right?
And like, I feel like that is the hardest thing for people to do, and it's not even people who struggle with alcohol. It's just they put themselves in a social setting, and I'm guilty of this too, right? I'm like, oh, we're out, I'll have a drink,
sure, and
then you break your 75-day, but it's like a temporary. I guess you don't even get a rush from alcohol, so it's like you get nothing from that one drink, but you just broke your 30-day streak that you had. So is that one, and then two, the perceived value of things, right? Like, it seems like a great resource. I've been looking into it and hearing from you, and you offer it for essentially free. You have other things that you include in that.
Freemium. Yeah, free if you want to do it yourself. And
yeah, if you want to do it yourself, it's free.
Yep.
And you're finding trouble with people buying into it. But I guarantee you, if you give it a perceived value of, like, you ever seen the study? They did it online. It was a prank. They got Payless shoes, and they put them into a different store, added like a fake name, made it look luxury, upcharged it like crazy. And people went into that store and started spending so much money. And there was the same shoes available for $20, $30. They just changed the brand. And then people went all crazy because it's this perceived value. What is the value that you want to provide people with Booze Vacations? What do you want people to I know you've touched on it, but what do you want people to get? Like when you participate in this community, this mentorship program, this when you're involved in this community, this is what you gain.
Sure, great question. And so let's back up here. Typical dude. He started drinking in high school or college. He's let's say he's late 30s. He's been drinking for 15, 20 years now. Kind of, he's successful in his career, kind of at the expense of his diet and lifestyle. He had to grind on his business to kind of build his empire, has a beautiful family, probably 15, 20 pounds overweight. So he's showing signs of metabolic dysfunction, which is a very common pre-disease symptom. High blood sugars, high triglycerides, probably fatty liver, visceral fat, high blood pressure, and he's balling, and he's having fun, and he's now flash forward another 10 years, he's been carrying around this pre-disease for 10, 15 years. What's going to happen with as alcohol's accelerating age and disease and eroding your diet and lifestyle? He's at more and more risk for chronic disease. So cancers, cardiac events, diabetes. Once that shit hits the fan, it's like it's not game over, but it's not a game you want to play, and it's a game you will be playing. So, and in the meantime, don't be surprised if you have erectile dysfunction. Don't be surprised if
You can't have
putting,
that.
you're putting on you're getting on prescription drugs that make you look and feel like crap and sap your energy. But again, a cardiac event, or cancer, a couple $100,000, it's loss of income. You lose 300-400K. Your spouse might not think you're so hot anymore, and you're in bed. So I mean, this is life or death. This is $500,000, $1 million, $10 million, depending. Like, what do you have, and how long do you want to keep it, and what's that worth to you, and how do you want to roll? Do you want to go out in the next 20 years in a painful whimper of disability and disease and lack of mobility and social isolation and poor relationships? Like, you don't have to have like an alcohol problem for that to happen. Like, guys are going down all the time in their 40s and 50s with chronic disease, and that's going to really impact their health span. So what's time and quality of life worth to you? Like, and if it ain't worth 500 or 1,000 or $1 million, like what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing wrong? Like, you are blowing your one chance. So this is a $10 million offer, and any jokers that think they can whatever, take a pill and a supplement to overcome diet and lifestyle, which is going to take out 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 diseases that are most common, that are chronic disease, are diet and lifestyle related, and alcohol is totally screwing your diet and lifestyle. Not to mention all the other things it does directly, like cardiac events and cancer, 7 cancers, etc.
Yeah, you make some good points. Diet and lifestyles, especially given the recent events of politics, right? That's been a big conversation starter for people. Diets and medication and healthcare. And how do you feel that the current nutrition state plays a role in with what you're doing, right? Because there's no argument of our food now today is more processed. We can get fast food instantly. We can get food ordered instantly. And even our healthy foods aren't so healthy as they were before. There's a lot of GMO and stuff added to it. How do you feel that plays a role and factor into what you're doing with Booze Vacation? Is that something that you incorporate? You talk about it a lot. Is that something you incorporate, changing your eating habits, changing when you're eating? Is there like a fitness element to your program? Is it full body, or is it something that you're just like, we'll start with minimizing alcohol consumption, and then does it climb up from there?
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure, for sure. So, in order to deliver, complete transformation in that beer commercial, and dudes that are, probably been kicking their own ass for the last 10 or 20 years, yeah, there's going to be some updates to the diet and lifestyle, and we've kind of have it mapped out. So it's kind of easy lifting type stuff. But yeah, absolutely, we're going to clean up the diet. We're going to fix the sleep. We're going to, the fitness stuff maybe a little bit more around, addressing aches and pains and injuries with maybe a little bit of PT, but obviously we're going to be active walking and lifting and playing. And then it's kind of like the mindset and operating system that needs to be kind of updated when, you've been kind of associating alcohol with this fun friends events and a reward system. But yeah, diet is critical. I have a degree in nutritional science. I'm sure about proper protein, but yeah, the food supply and the water supply and the processed food is a total 5 alarm dumpster fire. And sadly, as alcohol is this, alcohol is really tweaking with your metabolic health. It's creating sugar cravings and junk food cravings. And yeah, you're eating pizza and ice cream at 3 a.m. and all this stupid shit. So yeah, it's just really, and ultimately really, it might not be alcohol driving the car to your funeral, but like it's definitely sitting shotgun because yeah, and it's just more processed food more frequently. It's the insulin spikes and crashes and the erosion of your metabolic health, which is again the root cause of 9 out of 10 preventable diseases. And so yeah, we totally get into that for sure because with again take a break, you have all these dysregulated systems. Is that going to fix much? Like, no, you're going to be awkward. You're kind of getting rid of your operating system. So you really need to, and I think you were talking about this earlier with like, why were your buddies giving you shit when you had that company? It's kind of like you're expanding and they want you to kind of stay the same, right? Like you're trying stuff, you're sacking up and you're taking risks. And yeah, with those risks, there's rewards. And so I think people kind of want that equilibrium. And when you stop drinking, again, it's kind of a reflection on them, even though it's not about you. It winds up becoming a little bit of a reflection on them. And so, yeah, it's definitely kind of a interesting kind of dance that you see kind of societally and within your friend groups. But ultimately, you got to be in the you business and take care of yourself. And if you're not, again, there's not safety numbers with this stuff. You're all going down.
What do you see as your ideal client, quote unquote, for Booze Vacation? What is the ideal client, and what common challenges do you see people in this community who've made the step to, hey, I'm buying in, I want to do this, they are all in. What common challenge do you find this group of individuals encountering in the start of their journey of eliminating alcohol?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is just getting your brain around taking a real big boy break. The hardest part about taking a break is not the taking the break, it's the getting your brain around, hey, I'm not drinking for 6 months and I have this wedding and I have my buddy's birthday party. And again, you have this operating system that's completely corrupted. It's all about future and past. You're not in the present moment. You're telling yourself all these stories. And the operating system of alcohol is going to be in the back of your head all the time, noodling you. And so that's a big one. As far as ideal clients, it's guys that are gonna work with me one on one because they're gonna have more time than money. They're gonna be crushing it. They're gonna be kind of experiencing obvious symptoms that pretty much 9 out of 10 dudes have: belly fat, high blood pressure. They're on taking a prescription or over the counter medications. They're dealing with aches and pains. They have stomach problems. They have sleep problems. And again, I don't care if you don't if you think, oh, I sleep great. Like if you regularly drink alcohol, you do not sleep great. Your brain does not consolidate memory. Your emotional resilience isn't getting recharged. Your hormones are not being optimized and restored. You could have one cocktail that could lower your sleep quality by 40%. If it's strongly poured, or a craft beer that could knock it down 25-30%. So if you're drinking here and there, you are not sleeping well. And that system in and of itself is going to dysregulate your metabolic health. It's going to dysregulate your brain. You're going to go down a big rat hole of a lot of negative loops that you're unconsciously aware of that are happening, that are actively eroding your diet and lifestyle. So that's just kind of the reality that guys need to wake up to at some point if they want to have it all and keep it for as long as possible.
What are some of the social misconceptions regarding social drinking? The people who say, oh, I only drink, and this is my argument, I don't drink every day, every week, or even every month. Maybe it's every other month, but when I do, I drink, right? What are the common misconceptions you see with social drinking, and how does that play a factor into all of this? Because I know there's a group of people who are listening who are probably, they're not really in tune right now because they're like, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I don't drink for months at a time. But then when they drink, it's heavily drinking, which kind of almost doesn't matter how long you've taken, because now you're drinking 7, 8, 9, 10 beverages in a sitting.
Yeah, I'd probably kind of throw that one out as kind of more of a, again, if a dude's not drinking for 2 months at a time, and then he's got, I would not think that he would go that big, because again, your drinking is very predictive. It's kind of like you set that in motion, and you tell me what you've been drinking the last 5 years, and I can tell you what you're going to drink the next 5 years, right? You tell me what you did last weekend, I can tell you what you're doing next weekend. And it's very predictive, because again, it's lowering all these states, it's increasing stress, it's making you less productive during the work week. And oh, surprise, surprise, that was a pretty rough week. I really need to reward myself for getting through it, and I need a couple more beers. And with tolerance, I need a few more than I had before, because I'm getting better at processing this poison, because my body's trying to like not die. And so I'm not reaching levels of satisfaction, and so I need a little bit more. And now my prefrontal cortex is shut down after 4 or 5 drinks, so I'll have another 3 or 4, and like there won't even be any tape recording of that. So it's very predictive. And yeah, to your point, it's such a nuanced, complex thing. And again, I think myself included, and a lot of my buddies, it's like, hey, we think if we got the nice house and the nice family and plenty of money in the bank account and a good career, and we don't have then we don't have a problem. And if we don't have a problem, it's kind of like the wild, wild west. You can do whatever the hell you want, right? Like, I'll have a beer when I get home on Tuesday. I'm going to have 7 with my buddies on Friday, and Sunday fun day. You can do whatever the hell you want, because it's like, you're not a problem. You don't have a problem, but like anything over 2 servings is like alcohol. It's like heavy alcohol use. And so again, it's just kind of a silly game that guys like to play. Like, I don't have a problem, and so it's like, okay, well, go to a tailgate and party. Like, you're gonna have 2 or 3 drinks every hour for 3 or 4 hours, and half those drinks are gonna have multiple servings of alcohol in them. So like, yeah, that's heavy alcohol use. Like, you're not like a moderate drinker. Like, sorry, buddy. Like, it's just kind of a silly game. It's kind of a fairy tale that they sell us in beer commercials. Drink responsibly, blah blah blah. Your drinking is fine, is basically what they're telling you, and it's not. If you really care about your health. And again, it's like, your teens and 20s, you can get away with shit that you can't get away with in your 30s and 40s. So it is a moving target. And yeah, ultimately, it's not reliable fun over time, but it's just one of those things that are so nuanced and complex. And as you get busy, you kind of lose track of the ball.
It is interesting. You did mention the drink responsibly, because when you're drinking, you're poisoning your body, right? Alcohol, your body wants to get rid of it. It's not something it wants to regulate into your system. And we're voluntarily introducing this into our system. So it's like, drink responsibly. It's like almost saying like, smoke cigarettes responsibly.
Well, it's asinine. It's asinine. And there's actually, if you get into the science and you listen to Andrew Huberman like go off on it for like 2 hours, there's a really interesting part about how you drink alcohol, and there's a really strong connection between like your gut health. Your gut has like more like neurons and cells than your actual brain does. But when you drink your first drink, what happens is it like disrupts your gut biome. You have a leaky gut. It starts with cytokine like inflammatory response in your liver, and your stomach and your gut are like, there's like a highway that's communicating. And so basically, you like kind of throw a Molotov cocktail in your gut, and it like screws up the signals, and know that it tells your brain, have another. That's what So it's just funny. So it's kind of like you're hardwired to like self-destruct with this stuff. This is the reality. So it's like, it's basically completely tweaking the signals. And so something that's very caustic that's happening in your gut and your liver's responsible for 500 functions, pretty stinking important, and it's telling you like, hey, drink some more. And so it's really crazy.
I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com.
Well, then it becomes a snowball effect, right? Because then you go out, you start drinking. You're not going home and cutting out your meal plan for the week. You're finding yourself at the Taco Bell line or the McDonald's line, ordering the box of tacos or whatever. Now you're doing that. So I can see how that becomes a chain reaction of now you're drinking all day, then you're not eating, you're not hydrating, you're essentially dehydrating, and then you're going to the Taco Bell drive-through and you're ordering 10 tacos when you've never eaten 10 tacos in a sitting before, but tonight you will. Then you wake up the next morning, and how do we feel the next morning after a night like this? Oh, fuck. I feel like shit. Why did I do that? I'm hungover. Now you got to get your Pedialyte. You got to, and then so like now you're trying to recover this process, only to repeat it. Let's say you're at a bachelor party, right? Guys love their bachelor parties. Or Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a big football scene, especially now. Victory Monday just occurred. Hopefully by the time this airs tomorrow will be Victory Monday. Steelers win again. But what do we like to drink over football? We drink on Friday, then we drink on Saturday, and Sunday you can't take a rest because now the Steelers are playing. So now we're tailgating or we're at our football parties and we're drinking, and then come Monday, come tomorrow, we'll be good. And then you get invited to Monday Night Football. So it becomes a repetitive process. How you're in consulting, or you were in consulting? Are you still?
Yeah, so I had a compensation consulting firm. So we designed. It's a facet of HR. So there's like benefits, recruiting, compensation is designing employee and executive compensation plans or pay programs for pre-IPO tech and private companies in the Bay Area and California. And so we would basically kind of on a project basis consult with companies and tell them how to pay their different types of titles and executives and bonuses and who gets what and why and stock and all that stuff. So I did that for 20 years. And yeah, it was a cool business. And I spent a lot of that time, again, trying to mop up the mess that alcohol was making, because I was, going to try to drink till I was 100, but then had to kind of throw in the towel after CPAP machines and a bunch of bad blood work and a bunch of bullshit. And I wound up, walking away from that this year to go all in Booze Vacation, because it's way more fun, way more impactful, and way more important. So yeah.
So you walked away from that.
Yeah.
What was that pivotal moment? Did you have that moment of like, this is what I need to do and why? Or was it kind of like something you've always had in your mind and you just, but like there's always a decision of like when to do it. What made you go from that to this? And does that experience in consulting help with your approach to Booze Vacations?
Oh, absolutely. And like any entrepreneur that's going to succeed, I was kind of just a dog with a bone. I wasn't going to let it go of it. And even though my wife's kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what kind of nonsense are you? This was going in a lot of different directions, but I was just so passionate about it and the results that we got. And yeah, honestly, the last few years of my consulting business, I was just kind of, I was half in. I was more charged about Booze Vacation, and then my kind of a colleague of mine that was really helping me out was about to retire, and he's like, "Hey, I might bail," and I was kind of letting it die on the vine because my heart wasn't into it. So yeah, it kind of just came to a natural head, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. And so I had to awkward conversation with the wifey and kind of mop that up, and here I am. So yeah, I'm stoked.
You got to hit her with the trust me. Trust me.
That's exactly right.
It's always that decision's always tough, man. Like, and I think it's very important to have someone who may not understand your vision, but they understand that you understand your vision. So they're like, I don't know where this is going. I'm kind of scared, but I trust that you know what you're doing and where you're going. Right? Because sometimes we can have someone who pulls away from that, and sometimes it's warranted, right? Like, if I want to go start a venture that's probably not going to be lucrative, it's like my personality and who I am doesn't really coincide with that. Maybe it helps to have that person go, wait, hold on, don't. Are you sure you want to do this? So how important is that relation, like your wife's support into pushing into Booze Vacation? Like, is she all in on you, or are you still getting that like, man, what are we doing here?
Do you want the truth or the Hollywood answer? No, I'm just kidding.
We like the truth here at the Relentless
that's
Project.
cracking me up. So I'm a serial entrepreneur and kind of investor. So I've been, kind of our whole marriage, I've been kind of us getting into all kinds of crazy shit, and most of the time I've pulled it off. I think in this case, yeah, she gets it. To get into the weeds a little bit, as owning my own consulting business that was making money, I was kind of just, obviously I was just making my own decisions and didn't have to kind of check in with her as much. And now that this is kind of more money out than money in, there was some awkward conversation because I wasn't really including her in some of those things. But so we mostly got that ironed out. But yeah, it's been contentious at times just because of my poor communication, because I'm kind of just used to being an entrepreneur that just kind of does whatever he wants. But yeah, obviously when just money's coming out and not coming in, it's something you got to account for. And she is kind of the controller accountant in the family. So, because I'm not always paying attention to that stuff. So yeah, we mostly got that ironed out. But yeah, and I think, with any partnership, you kind of just have to, you're kind of anchored together and you have to kind of ride it out. But yeah, she's been great about it. And I think, to your point, I think a lot of people wouldn't be cool with it, but
I like that you say serial entrepreneur. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that word, but I fit into that so much because I'm always trying to branch something out, start something new, bring something in. I'm a serial entrepreneurist. I like that word. I'm stealing that.
Yeah, serial and solo too, right? Like a lot of times you're doing it on your own as well. So
I'm a lone wolf. That's how I operate best. Just
right
on my own and figuring it out as I go. Because if you fail 1,000 times, you've learned 1,000 lessons.
That's right.
So I'm a huge proponent, big on shooting your shot. You may not always hit, but when you do, it's worth it.
For sure.
How is you're like, you said you're big on you're big on TikTok now, or you're growing your TikTok. How big is that? TikTok is one of the most interesting social media platforms in my opinion, because a lot of information, like TikTok has its element of you can sit there for hours and just waste your time on. You ever seen the what do they call them?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, the people who like reenact the emoji or the emojis or whatever. Have you seen those videos? They'll just set up shop in a public spot, and then people will send emojis, and then they'll just sit there like this, and they'll be like, pizza. Next one comes. So we have that element of TikTok where it's just like brain
nonsense
eating like bacteria. And then we have the other stuff of like a lot of information I've learned on TikTok. People, going through their businesses and being transparent, because it's one of those platforms where people are just almost too honest and too upfront with their lives. And you're like, we don't need to know all that about your life, but it kind of helps us peel the curtain back and see that. How important has TikTok been in pushing Booze Vacations? Is that a platform that you use to push this?
It is, and yeah, it was a cool sandbox to play in when I was, again, kind of iterating on what the hell Booze Vacation is and how we're going to make it happen. Obviously, initially it was a lot around just kind of figuring out the brand and the messaging and kind of some of the education and awareness. And so, yeah, like you said, it's a total rat hole. It'll suck you in, if you're not, if you're not paying attention. And I'm not. We've gotten a lot of signups. It's not as sticky. Like I said, I think for our offer, it's pretty important that we keep connected, and because you'll be great for six weeks, and then you'll have a question or a stumbling block, and so I think it's been good for just getting awareness out there and getting kind of just getting a lot of at bats at telling a bunch of kind of pithy stories and talking shit and answering questions. So, and yeah, I think it's an interesting channel because, like I said, I just don't think that guys talk about alcohol in kind of straightforward ways and tie it to your health and performance and how deep that rat hole goes. I think, again, most dudes think that, hey, I work out, I take supplements, I can, I'm not an alcoholic, I can kind of run amok, beyond that. And we're kind of talking some shit about, hey, maybe not. Like, what's up with the belly fat? What's up with the high blood pressure? Like, what about the CPAP machine your doctor wants to put you on? Like, let's connect a couple dots here. And so, yeah, it's been cool. But like I said, I think I want guys to do this that are serious about it, and they could absolutely do it for free, and hundreds have. But I just want it. It does require some sack, and it probably does require some hand holding as well, because it's it's a complex problem. Because ultimately you have this operating system, that alcohol's fun and reward system, that's actively dysregulating all these key systems of health. There's tolerance, there's age, there's responsibilities, and there's your identity. And you pull that out, stop drinking, like you're not even halfway there when it comes to solutions. So as far as the solution that we're providing, which is again kind of backing into that beer commercial and delivering everything that promises, and I think ultimately that's the solution for most guys, and that's kind of the biggest backstop and insurance from going back to how it was with you in alcohol, is kind of having everything and cleaning up your rough edges and figuring it out how to be social about it. And then, and now you have a longer runway. You could still have a drink or have other things, and kind of choose your own adventure from there. But if you don't reset it, you're going to be super bummed that you didn't take me up on the offer.
How did you even come across the Relentless project? What platform was it?
YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build the YouTube, right? Because I feel a lot of people like to see what's going on, right? And so I've been like, I'll push the video in YouTube. I've been really hitting on the reels because and shorts, because like you'll catch a glimpse of like the meat of what's being talked about, and then people want to know more, and then they go into it. Is that something you're like going to start focusing on? Like, I think with what you're offering, you should almost have a podcast where you offer the environment for people to have these tough conversations. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because now we're on this platform that once it's out there, everyone can see. So people are hesitant on coming on stuff like that and talking and being vulnerable. But it's also one of the places where you can get instant feedback. That's why social media is a double-edged sword, right? You put something out and people are going to tell you about it, whether you want to hear it or not. And I feel if you have the best intention, if you truly believe in what you're doing, do it, right? I always tell people, I've had people message me and they're like, oh man, like this episode really, like I didn't feel you came off this way. And that I welcome that, because at the end of the day, I want to build this and be better so I can offer a resource to people, right? Like someone listening to this very episode can be battling with man, is alcohol really a factor in my life right now? Like maybe I'm not an alcoholic, but why am I not getting the results I want? Then they hear this and they're like, man, maybe there's something I have to try. I think you should start a podcast. Not to throw you out there, but is that something you've considered?
Yeah, yes and no. But yeah, it's such a, like I said, I hate to use the word rat hole, but you know how it is with social media. I mean, there's just so many plates to spin, and you could burn so much time and money. And so, yeah, and we do have we have a large demographic, but I think until we kind of hit that tipping point where we have that social proof, where it's like really clear who's taking the vacation and who hasn't, then I think it's going to be really easy to kind of, we'll be clubbing baby seals, so to speak. But I think in the meantime, it is a nuanced, complex problem. And so we just really need to get a toehold with the adoption. And again, we've gotten hundreds of guys through it, but the more we get, and especially men of success that are probably, most dudes are probably stuck at about 60%. We get them at 100%, they're going to be, sparks are going to be flying, and we're going to be moving mountains. And so, but yeah, we're building the rocket ship as we're launching. And so, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. It'd be super cool to have a podcast, but yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. And yeah, I do have really good conversations with guys, because it's neat to hear their own perspective. And like I said, I think I do a pretty good composite of the typical social extroverted dude that's, physically active and in corporate and, hanging out with the bros. But, there's other people that have different paths and different stories. And I think it's important for people to hear different flavors of that to really kind of reach them.
What's a success story of someone who's participated in this? Do you have someone in mind? Like, what did their journey look like? And then what transformation did you witness in this person from start to finish? Is that something you can share?
Sure. I'll give a couple. So early on, I kind of tapped like 20 buddies to take a 3-month break. And, again, kind of awkward conversation, definitely got a couple screw yous, mind your own business. But, tapped a random neighbor. I'm like, hey man, we're doing this. He's like, cool, whatever. I'll do it. Like for 3 months, like he lost 30 pounds. He's like, he got promoted as a partner in his law firm, and he still hasn't had a drink since. And it's been like 3 years. So that's an example of just kind of like some asshole being like, hey, do this and check it out. And we're like, all right. And then they sack up, and guess what? They really like looking, feeling, screwing butter, and they didn't really miss it that much. Another example is a colleague of mine who's like the largest wealth planner in San Jose, the largest private wealth planner in San Jose. And he's a buddy I grew up with. He's a big dude. He's like 6'5", and he was tipping the scale at like 307, and just wealth planner. So he's entertaining. He's drinking some good bourbons and cigars, but busy and working out, but not really able to lose the belly fat. So we got him on a booze vacation. He lost like 65 pounds. His blood work was getting super sketchy. That's kind of why he reached out to me. Like that all got cleaned up. Like his performance is through the roof. And yeah, he still has a cocktail here or there if he feels like it. But yeah, just major transformation, and just how we kind of just an updated identity where everything, all this stuff is just kind of easy, because again, you get used to what you're used to, right? And so you start working out and looking good and feeling good and eating right, and that kind of just perpetuates, and then your performance and your shelf life and what you can produce and your outcomes are just kind of more automated, and they're a lot better. So yeah, super stoked on that. But yeah, we got all kinds of different ones. But generally, guys are going to lose weight. They're going to get in a better groove with their family. They're going to dust off the toys in the garage or the guitar and start recording music. They're just going to have more time and horsepower and energy, and they're really going to enjoy not having to drink all the time and kicking the shit out of themselves and burning weekends and being stressed and all this stuff. It's like, there's always trade-offs, right? And it's not the perfect solution, but if you pick a solution where you're looking and feeling better, and you're going to have less drama and bullshit and less healthcare and things like that, then that's definitely worth trying.
And you mentioned your background in nutritional science. How important is it having an academic foundation to push what you're doing, right? Because like a lot of times you see people doing stuff and there's no real backing to what they're doing, and they may know what they're talking about. But how important is it to have that foundation of education you've provided yourself in pushing this? Do you feel more people, it creates more of a buy-in, or is it whatever?
Yeah, I think so. But it's funny, like there's like the more plates, more dates guy. Like he's not like a PhD guy, and he's like telling Andrew Huberman and all these PhDs these different protocols and stuff like that. So I think anybody can dive in, and if they're passionate about it, and if they have a long enough runway and they enough horsepower, they can figure this stuff out. But no, it's certainly it was certainly part of my story, and ultimately really where I earned all my money was just kind of struggling and toiling for the 10 to 15 years I was trying to figure this shit out with regular alcohol use, and really getting good at figuring out how alcohol is dysregulating these systems, and then working on solving root cause issues and not like masking symptoms with bullshit appliances and supplements and tricks and stuff that aren't really addressing the root cause issue. And so I think my story and my buddy's stories and my my experiences are really important in what we do, obviously.
You obviously have a passion for health and fitness. I know you do surfing and other cool stuff because you're able to where you live. That's awesome. But what are some of your personal health and fitness routines look like now that you've done the vacation and you've stuck with the vacation? Like, what are some normal things you implement every day to keep this conducive process of health and fitness? And how do you balance being a father, a business owner, and maintaining your health?
Yeah, good question. And yeah, my wife complains at me sometimes that it's not as balanced as it should be. But yeah, a lot of the typical stuff: cold plunge, sauna. In the mornings, yeah, I like to cold plunge. I like to kind of stretch, quick yoga, a little quick meditation, sometimes a little red light, some Wim Hof breathing, all the shit you hear. I like to kind of throw in a bunch of stuff, get up a little bit early, and I can bang that out about 40 minutes, a little meditation. Definitely getting 30-40 grams of protein in the morning to kind of set the table for feeding and caring for my lean body mass. Fair amount of caffeine after about an hour and a half or two. Don't want to drink that right away. It interferes with your cortisol levels. And then get into work, and I eat pretty healthily. We cook a lot. Meat, rice, cabbage, whatever, veggies, fish. And I try to lift. I historically I'd like struggle to lift like once a week and like get like 30 minutes in. So now I'm trying to do twice because I know it is important, especially basically muscle is your currency of longevity. So whenever the shit hits a fan, like if you have an injury or if you get a sketchy health diagnosis, the more muscle you have, the more obviously you're going to lose, but you're going to lose your from that baseline moment. But the more muscle you have, the more reserves you have, the better you're gonna get through any of those bumps in the road. So yeah, really trying to feed and care for my lean body mass. I walk, I mountain bike, I surf when I get to the coast, kind of the lighting is important. I have like red light, blue light blocking glasses, and try to turn off the screens, try to have a consistent sleep schedule, try not to screw up my sleep with, stimulants and alcohol and stuff like that before you go to bed, have a wind down period. Another big thing I think is definitely like not eating, having a good 3 or 4 hours to digest your food before you go to bed, I think is pretty important. I track it on the Oura Ring, so I can kind of see what's working, what's not working. But blah, 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 all the standard shit you hear. But I think it's been pretty helpful. Obviously you want to keep things lean and healthy. And yeah, I work with a kind of a sports chiropractor guy. He's not like a neck cracker, but he does like fascia release and dry needling and stuff like that. I play a fair amount of tennis. I think playing games is important. Walking and getting outside is important. Manual labor, rake a couple leaves here and there, but nothing crazy.
Are you in a pickleball?
I was pickleball. I love ping pong. I love tennis, and I did geek down on pickleball for a couple of years, and then I kind of just started playing more tennis, and it's a little more high octane. But yeah, pickleball is great. But I've been more in the tennis lane at the moment. But yeah, pickleball's taken over for sure.
Oh, it is. It's everywhere. Now there are courts being put up. What advice would you give people? They're tickled, right? They're like, I hear what he's saying. I like what he's saying. I don't know if I'm ready to give up alcohol, but I do want to push into this health and fitness, what advice would you give someone on the brink of like, not really sure if I want to give up alcohol, but I do understand something needs to change? Like, what advice would you give them to push them into the full experience?
Yeah, and again, we're not about like pushing guys into something they don't want to do. We're about kind of illuminating the pathway and by the education and awareness. So hop on boozevacation.com. We have a killer quiz, the U versus booze quiz. You can bust it out in like 2 minutes. We'll send you this custom report, and then we'll send you a couple emails. We have like a manifesto on kind of what this is gonna look like in the day in the life, and what you can do about it, and just kind of start educating you. So you're kind of sleeping with one eye open, and you're like, oh shit, Clifford said, yeah, go big this weekend. I'm gonna go big the next weekend, and it just so happens that I did. How did he know that? And you're kind of like, oh crap, I think I'm stuck here. And so yeah, I got the belly fat that's not going away, even though I'm working out and watching what I'm eating, and then I went off the ranch with this bachelor party. So yeah, just get educated, and ultimately, we don't want guys like, obviously you can't, a guy cannot commit to a big boy break, 3, 6, 12-month break, unless they really have their shit together and a story straight. And so it's really about getting that education level, and where you're like, oh, I want to do this because I want this stuff and I want to avoid that stuff. And so until you get there, I think it's pretty complicated in our society, and that's unfortunate, because you don't have, a lot of guys don't have that much time to figure this out before, like, hey, it's like, you can take your health seriously, we can help, or your doctor's going to start taking your health seriously, and guess what? He's going to take most of your money, and the shit's not going to work too well when he duct tapes stuff up, and other stuff isn't working, and it's a predictive downward spiral, and it's not a lot of fun, and it's definitely not going to be. You're just going to move into that old guy cliche identity, which I think that's my worst nightmare. So that's not something I'm cool with. So it's like, you got to make some decisions. And I hate to say this again, education, and I hate to say this other one, but at some point you got to kind of grow up. And it's like, hey, if you want to look and feel like the guy in high school or college, you got to update the habits a bit, or it's gonna go away pretty quickly.
Why do you say you hate to say education?
Because that's just like the last, like that, my 20, 30, 40-year-old meathead self, like I was just like, hey, I just want to like drink and party and goof off with my buddies, and cram as many activities as I possibly could. And when it comes to education, it's like la 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 la, I just want to like screw off, and just like have fun. But yeah, now that I got, and I was super slow to mature, but now that I'm 52, it's like, all right, I think I'm slowly.
So that's when I start to get my shit together at 52. I got No, I think information, I'll say information, education, information, it's so important. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
as a society, we're at a pivotal moment where people are yearning and fiending and longing for knowledge and information. And I think it's very important to be informed before you do something, right? Especially, let's say fitness, right? We see a lot of people going to the gym, they don't really know. And then their fitness journey gets cut short because they're not seeing results, they're not seeing instant gratification. So it tends to be like, oh, this isn't working, and they quit. But if you were informed and advised and educated on how that fitness journey looks, how it's going to, what you're supposed to be doing at the gym, how you're supposed to be doing it, how important nutrition is, right? Because a lot of people go to the gym, and I'm guilty of this sometimes. They're like, well, what's your diet? I don't really have one. I go to the gym so I don't have to be as mindful for my diet. When in reality, that's taking away from your fitness journey. So being advised, being educated in what you're doing, for example, how alcohol plays a factor in your body, will kind of help that journey, because you're like, okay, I understand what I'm doing now pays dividends later. So I may not see it now, but I know because I've done the time and gotten the education that this does happen. I just have to stick through it and remain relentless in this approach. So I do think education, as corny as it may sound, it's so important to know things nowadays. How is certain foods playing a factor in my body? Like one big misconception is carbohydrates, right? we have this group of people who go, carbs are bad. Just carbs are bad. Eliminate carbs. Keto diet. And then we have on the opposite extreme, carbs. You need carbs. It's everything. It's the energy and the fuel in your body. And when in reality, the truth is lies somewhere in the middle of, well, if you're going to be doing a, heavy lift day or a big run, carbs is something you want to focus on because it will be used as fuel. Rather than if you're going to be not doing something like that, not as active, maybe lower the carbs and that portion of your day so that way it doesn't get stored. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but the whole point, education is important in especially what you're doing, right? Because what you're doing people are going to get very defensive and it's like, oh, I don't have an alcohol problem. I'm not saying you have an alcohol problem. I'm saying alcohol plays a factor in your journey. You can do with that what you will. And if you want to further yourself, we're here. If you don't, well, we're here when you decide to. Where do you see Booze Vacations going in the future? What is your goal?
Let me respond to something that you said real quick, if you don't mind, which is a good point because, like I said, I think a lot of the typical guys, they're working out, they're watching what they eat, and over time, they're not getting the results, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I went shit show weekend. And so I think the tendency when they don't get the results is like, okay, well, it's not really working and my shoulder's messed up. So yeah, I'm not going to work out as much. I'll just try to make some more money. And you wind up spinning the wrong plates. And the problem is, again, the subtle nature of alcohol and how it's dysregulating all these different systems. I don't think they realize the tax and the impact and how that exponentially winds up really taxing their gains. And so they give up. And then when things are already going down and then you give up, like that's when shit really hits the fan. And so that's an important piece that I wanted to just kind of to recognize because yeah, it's like when you keep doing stuff and it's not working, what are you going to do? Stop, like, I forget it. And then it's like, okay, no, well, the problem was the alcohol, but that you don't have a problem that so you don't technically have a problem with that because again, this is a complex kind of issue.
No, well said. Well said. Where do you envision Booze Vacations going? Like, what are you trying to grow it to? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
$1 billion kind of kind of health and wellness hub that's completely transformed men's health and essentially addressed 9 out of 10 leading causes of death, like for free through diet and lifestyle protocols, coaching, actual like trips. The high achievers and top performers that have worked with us directly are going to be kind of in this like inner circle of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We're going to be like incubating all these different health and wellness companies. We're going to be having a hell of a time and opening up any door with our goodwill and our impact. It's, the human interest stories of guys, their transformations they made, the contributions they made, the epiphanies they've had. It's going to be a hell of a ride.
I don't know if this is something you do or you thought of. Traveling to colleges and speaking, because I know when I was in college, we had a lot of like public speakers come out and talk to us about XYZ. Is that something I can almost envision this being very beneficial for, move-in weekend? We have all these young men specifically going to college. They're out of the curtilage of their home. They don't have their parents hovering over them anymore. They have this sense of freedom. I think having, going out to colleges and having this conversation and providing an open platform would be beneficial for both Booze Vacations and the young men who are essentially going to be leading society, and the women, because I feel anyone can benefit from this, but your focus is primarily on men. I think that'd be very beneficial to go to these colleges or maybe corporate settings where they have a lot of new hires, a lot of first years coming in, kind of setting the tone of like, one, this is what it means to be successful. Being successful is taking pride in what you're doing, being healthy, being fit, and all that alcohol plays a factor in all that, right? Because now we're going to college, we're having fun. I don't have freedom, and uh, now you're going to college parties and all this stuff. Like, is that something you've considered?
Yeah, I'm up to speaking to whoever. I think knowing our niche, I think the younger generations are catching on, and they're drinking actually historically less. So I think there's a pretty big behavior shift. There's other crap out there. There's legalized weed. There's dating apps. It's a different generation, and so I think am I gonna like parachute down and tell an 18-year-old to do what to do? It's like no, I could tell them big picture stuff, but I think it's really more timely when again, if you come out the other end of it and it's like 15 years later, you're still kind of pretending like you're in college, like that's or 10 years later, that's probably a more appropriate time to have that conversation where it's more ingrained. But yeah, I think there's definitely some value, but again, it's like I might be stretching my generational knowledge a little bit. And honestly, the reality between your teens and your 20s is like that's just kind of a crazy, tumultuous time. And so once you kind of come out the other end, and yeah, if you're drinking, if you're drinking the 10, 15 drinks and you have the belly fat and it's in court, it's at work and it's at home and it's how you roll, like that's when I think the conversation is probably a little bit more appropriate. And it's kind of like similar conversation you have with somebody with a 401k. It's like, hey, start putting in a couple bucks at 20 versus 45, where you have to pay a lot more and you'll have a lot less. And it's kind of the same conversation.
I think, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I just think it'd be like, I never had that conversation with anyone until I was an adult and was looking for it. So I think if it's there, it gives, not you're forcing it down, just saying, hey, this is
Sure.
this is the effects of alcohol in your body. This is what we're doing. We typically focus on this type of person, but this is something that's open to anyone looking to enhance their journey in health and fitness and their careers, right? Because if you're, studies show if you're mentally, physically healthy, you tend to be more successful because the certain habits that you build in becoming that, you kind of transition into your career, your professional field. I think it'd be cool, be dope. You don't have
Yeah,
to
and
pay royalties or
the other
anything.
thing I'd say about not just your performance and what you get, but it's like just your enjoyment and your current state and your presence and your mood. So it's like, I mean, plenty of guys can be crushing it and just be killing it and have a beautiful family and stuff like that. But are they grateful? Are they stressed all the time? Are they present around their family? So that's kind of the other piece of it. So it's like it's not just about performance, but it's about like your state and your enjoyment and your gratitude and how you roll. Because again, any asshole can have a big pile of cash, but like, is that going to make them happy? And are they gonna really appreciate it? Like, not necessarily. That's the other piece.
Yeah, honestly, I've had a lot of these conversations recently on here, and it does make sense. Right? It's not about what you're getting, but what you're giving, right? And if you're pouring from a half empty cup, you're not grateful, you're not happy, you don't feel successful, although the world may look at you as successful. But what does success mean, right? What does success mean to you? Someone who says, I am successful. What do you envision success being? Because for me, it's more of like, I love what I'm doing. I enjoy what I'm doing, whatever it is. Um, I love giving back. I love helping people. That is what success means to me, is putting myself in a position where I have enjoyment, where I have the ability to grow. So I wish, if I so wish to do, because I'm in such a good state internally, so that my internal state is good. Now my external state tends to reflect that. What does success mean to you?
Yeah, no, I think it's it's you kind of distill down to some of the pithy comments you hear, but it's contribution, it's love, it's relationships, it's like I said, I think health is pretty important, and I think you need to be working towards something, and you need to have a community and friends and social interactions, or yeah, kind of the core things you hear, but and yeah, dancing with the awkwardness and staying out of your crazy head and all its thoughts and just being present and engaged. I really like Eckhart Tolle. He kind of gets into, he had The Power Now. That one's a little deep, but I really like A New Earth. But yeah, it kind of talks about, kind of just, some of the keys to happiness, I think are in there. But yeah, it's about contribution and it's about being present and being okay with the present moment and not trying to change it and not trying to get past it. But yeah, kind of get in that zone.
What advice would you give someone who feels stuck in their personal, professional lives? They're in this, they're in the now. They're like, what am I doing? What advice? Because although your primary focus is booze vacations, it's almost like a life changing thing you're trying to do. You're trying to impact people's lives. So what advice would you give someone who feels stuck in their journey? And then how can they start the journey of self-empowerment and self-improvement?
Yeah. Obviously it's a broad question. If they're regularly drinking, like I would definitely say, look into the drinking, maybe check out our website. There's, like I said, I would think about just kind of taking stock of your life and your career, your health, your fitness, your friends, your activity levels, and start with long walks. Get some good empowering podcasts, whether Joe Rogan or Tony Robbins or Tim Ferriss, and just start the kind of a little bit of personal development. I think is important. There's, like I said, A New Earth, Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. That's a really good basic kind of spirituality book. And like I said, I think, ultimately we have these caveman brains and now we're like in the 21st century. And I think we're wired for stress and, the saber-toothed tiger is going to capture us. And it's we're not really in that state anymore. So I think we can make ourselves pretty miserable in this day and age with all this comfort and our hormones all out of whack and all that stuff. So it's tricky, but I think I think meditation is pretty important. Working out, taking care of yourself are always good places to start. There's a good book. I like Mark Sisson's The Primal Blueprint. It's pretty good, like diet, lifestyle book. Forever Strong is pretty good. It kind of talks about the importance of protein. But yeah, just kind of get educated and build yourself up and keep your head up. And, affirmations and self-talk, I think are really important. You want to make sure it's positive, not negative, and be around people that support you and aren't bringing you down. And yeah, looking at some of your vices and the food that you eat is also going to really impact how you look and feel and your energy levels, etc. So there's a lot of moving pieces there.
And what key takeaway, after listening to all this, what is one key takeaway you want listeners to take home with them, to implement or to think about after this episode's over? Like, what is that final thought you have for people?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a dude in your 30s through 50s plus or minus and you're regularly drinking and you're not firing on all cylinders when it comes to your sleep and your performance and your body composition and your relationships and your bank account and your energy and your mood, like, you need to, alcohol is going to have an effect there. Check out the free quiz we have, check out some of our resources, but the quiz is really cool and we'll send you a bunch of good stuff. And yeah, taking a break from alcohol is not a dumb idea. You're not going to lose your identity. You're not going to never have fun again. But if you don't figure this one out, you're going to lose your identity and you're going to never have fun again once you screw up your health. So, or you're going to have a new type of fun that's not going to be much fun. So that's kind of my long and short advice of it there.
And where can people find more information on Booze Vacation? They're listening to this. They're like, this is something I'm interested in. Where can people find you and get more information on Booze Vacation, what it is, what it means, how to get started?
Yeah, our website, boozevacation.com/quiz. If you want to take the quiz, I think it'll pop up. But yeah, drop in there. We've done a lot of good work on it. We're not pointing fingers. We're not pushing sobriety. It's pretty straight talk. We're really talking about results and health and quality of life stuff, and having a blast and keeping the activity levels up where you want them.
Well, Clifford, I appreciate you for jumping on. the Relentless project has been a great conversation. I think it's giving people a lot of things to think about when it comes to what they're doing every day and what they're trying to push for later. So I do appreciate you for jumping out. This has been great. You got anything else for the listeners?
No, I think we covered quite a bit, Ish. I really appreciate the time to be on your podcast. It was a great conversation, and I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Looking forward to what Booze Vacation becomes and all the lives it changes and helps. This is the one with Clifford Stephan, Booze Vacation. And we're out. Later.
Cheers.